What's up, nail crew? Let's test out this Amazon dip kit I got from Saviland. When they reached out to me a few weeks ago to try their dip kit, I was very interested because I've seen people post about this and it's been really mixed reviews. Some people say they absolutely love these liquids and the kit, and other people have just basically trashed it. Being the accountant that I am, and actually I used to be an auditor, I like to basically give my nails an audit. And I think that's part of why I've tried so many dip powders at this point. I like to really research what I'm doing, and maybe that's just me in my head telling myself that, since I have a dip powder obsession. The kit comes with everything that you need: liquids, powders, a nail file, a cuticle pusher, and a brush to dust off your nails with. I like to use a pointy nail tool to trace around my cuticles after I dip, but you could also use the pointy end of the metal cuticle pusher. That would work too. You just have to be really careful when you're tracing around your cuticles so that you don't accidentally scrape yourself up. Starting with the first application. Now, just so that everybody knows, I always do builder gel under my manis, and then I do a layer of peel base because I like to change my nails a lot. Anytime you use peel base, you want to make sure you apply a layer of dip base or gel base over your entire nail first and let it dry before you start dipping, or if you're using gels, you'd cure it. And you want to do this because peel base always makes the first layer of dip powder kind of adhere a little bit funny, like it doesn't quite adhere. I applied the first layer of dip base, let that dry, and then started dipping my first layer like normal. And my first impressions of the liquids were that they were decent. They didn't go on super thin. I prefer my liquids to be thinner, but they weren't too runny, and they were a little bit on the thick side, but nothing crazy. I think I've tested tried over 20 to 25 dip liquids brands by now in the past 3 years since I've been dipping. I can tell right off the bat if liquids are going to be really bad or really good, or if they're just going to be in the middle. And I'll cut straight to it. These are in the middle. They're definitely not the worst liquids I've used by any means. I've used some liquids that are really, really bad, like flood your cuticles terribly, go on super thick, or don't pick up any of the pigment, or dry super fast. I would say these have a medium to slower dry time. So I was able to take my time with applying the liquids and then pouring over the powder. And if you're somebody who wanted to do some kind of ombre with your nails, these would be fine for doing that. You'd for sure have enough time. If you're applying dip liquids over just your natural nails, you want to build an apex, which means your first layer would be about half the way up your nail. The second layer would be about 3/4 up your nail. And then the third and fourth layers would be back to the back of your cuticle. Now, I only usually need 2 layers of dip powder since I do builder gel underneath all of my dip manis. But when I was applying this, normally I do 2 layers of color and then a layer of clear because I like to seal in all of my nails with clear. Well, for the first time in probably 2.5 years, I didn't use clear in a mani. Since this kit didn't come with clear, I really wanted to give it a really fair, honest shot and see how it would work for a beginner who didn't have any clear with them, who didn't maybe know about clear. So I ended up doing 3 layers of the color. The color payout was okay, but it wasn't as opaque as I like to see. Plus, knowing that I'd have to buff and file over that color, I thought that three layers would be much better, and it turned out to be true. The third layer really gave it that opaqueness that I like. So as far as that goes, the opaqueness, you will most likely need 3 layers to get the really opaque color. That's one thing to consider. You can see me here dusting off the excess powder with the little dust off brush, and it did the job fine, but I like my dust off brushes a little bit on the stiffer side. I really like to give my dip powder a good scrubbing. I don't know why. It just makes me feel like when I'm using a stiff nail brush that I'm really getting every drop of excess powder off. So here now I'm putting on the 3rd layer, and that's really giving it the coverage that I wanted from the start from 2 layers. The 3rd layer is just really filling in any little gaps of color that I felt like I was missing. Then after I activate and I buff, I felt like with 3 colors without any clear, this way in case I buff a little bit too hard or file a little bit too hard, I won't accidentally buff off the color so low that then I get bare spots. I finished the 3rd layer of dip on all my nails, and I'm brushing off all the excess, and then I'm going to use the activator and I activate all 5 nails. And I looked at the directions. The directions weren't super clear about timing. The bottle said you needed to wait a minute, and then it should be dry enough to file and shape. I waited exactly a minute and I tapped them, and guess what? Much to my surprise, my nails are ready to buff and shape. I could not believe it. And normally I use a buffing block to do all my buffing, but since there's only this nail file, I wanted to make sure I used everything that was in the kit, and I just buffed with the 180 side of the nail file since that's the less gritty side. Even though I really like to use a buffing block for when I buff my nails first, I was really surprised how well this file worked. It buffed the nails out really pretty smoothly for being a nail file, and I know a lot of people do use a nail file when they buff, but for me, I just can't seem to get my nails as smooth with the nail file. I think because I end up being so rough, I'm afraid that I'm gonna over file down my color, versus when I use a buffing block, I feel like I can like buff pretty hard without rubbing off my color too badly. This next part is not something that a beginner using this kit is most likely to do, but I can't help it. I've been dipping for 3 years, and for me, I have to use an e-file around my cuticles every time that I dip after I activate and buff. It is just out of habit, and I can't not do it. So I try to do it pretty quickly and just do very minimal going around my cuticles with this e-file bit. And I have a separate tutorial that I'll link in the description box for just getting the perfect cuticle lines with this bit. So then I went through and I wiped off my nails with isopropyl alcohol, and I felt like this mani needed a little bit of pizzazz. I have these nail stickers that I got off AliExpress that I wanted to add to it. Normally when I do nail stickers, I do it over the last layer of the color and then I encapsulate them in clear. Well, I didn't have clear with this kit, so I decided, all right, let's see what happens if I just apply the nail stickers on, activate, and top coat them. Surprisingly, it worked because these stickers were really thin. Now, I will say when I activated and I top coated, they still looked really shiny, which was awesome, but I could feel a little bit of the sticker poking through on the top, but it didn't peel off when I had my mani on. For the top coating, I made sure to follow the instructions that were on the bottle, which was activate and then wait 60 seconds to apply the first layer of top coat. When I looked at the instructions that came, the little manual, it said to only do one top coat and let it dry for 60 to 120 seconds. Since I've been dipping, I have never once had a top coat, a dip top coat, that you only needed to put one layer on. It's always been two. So I went with my gut here, and that might be something that's a problem if you're a first time dipper and like you haven't watched any YouTube videos or in any nail groups on Facebook. You wouldn't know that you need 2 layers of dip top coat. And on this second layer, I waited until I saw crinkling. And I knew that from using previous dip liquids that when you see that crinkling effect, that is your time to go, get that second layer on. If you're finding this review helpful, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. Overall, this kit is a decent option for someone if you're just starting and you have a really limited budget, or if you just want to try a kit to start out and see if it's something that you're going to like before you jump gung-ho into doing your DIY nails at home. Check out this next review on an Amazon dip kit. Thanks for joining me today, Nail Crew.